Hello, everybody. Welcome to the XP Billionaires podcast, the RPG podcast with so many episodes. We're really nitpicking the little tiny things about RPGs these days. And you know what? Sometimes you just have to nitpick, if you ask me. I am Ray Thegrim. I am joined by Sky Knight, the Mel Zerker. We are the XP Billionaires. If you have not listened to us previously, and if you haven't, go back and listen to us. Like, come on, we got some great stuff to talk about. Let us now say hello to the rest of the team. We'll start with Sky. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Haven't played enough Hades, but I'm sure I will rectify that after recording because I am obsessed.
You say you haven't played enough, but that's almost all I see you do, with the exception of Strikers.
Yeah. This is the game that can distract me from Persona 5 Strikers. That's how much I love Hades.
That is actually saying something. Awesome. All right, Mel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's been a slow day. I spent most of the day in bed, but that means I get to stay up late playing Persona Strikers, which is what's currently on the go for me. I also downloaded Genshin Impact, so calm down. I'll get there. It's gonna happen. And probably the game I've spent the most time lately is this absolutely terrible busy work game called Eggs Inc. And I have so many eggs.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I spent 3 months. I actually got so far to the point where I actually had like different goals or something like that because like I couldn't expand my farm any bigger.
I don't know what it is. I don't know why. It's got chickens and they run and I just
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you just have to hold your finger down and it's wonderful.
That's all
And
you
it's
do.
addictive. My whole staff at work was obsessed with it. Not for nearly as long as I was, but everyone was playing it. And it was just whereas we're waiting for customers, or while we're even with customers, we're helping them out, and our fingers just happen to be touching our screens for some reason. We're not
Just
really sure why.
touch that little egg button. But
Yep.
here's the thing that I don't get. Why am I poking drones? Is there a narrative reason, or do I just like them because they have money in them?
Well, obviously it's because they have money in them.
Okay. I was just like, so this is a game where you raise chickens and you try to make them breed faster and lay more eggs and ship them out. And then also there's this thing where you have to like shoot drones out of the sky. And I'm like, this seems like an odd addition, but hey, it gives me like 300 eggs, so I guess I'll do it.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, that's been my gaming life lately.
No,
I
that's
so
awesome.
confused, but okay.
I don't know. I don't know either. I'm not usually one of these kind of like mindless clicker games, but something about this one's just hitting that mark, and I don't understand why.
I honestly never thought I would hear that game's name again, and lo and behold, here it is.
Lo and behold, it's Eggs Inc. By the company Eggs Inc.
Yep. Wow.
So yeah, that's been my life.
Well, no, at the very least, I can understand your addiction. Well, I can't really understand it. I can just sympathize because I was there too. So
yeah, you also had one. You don't get it, but you were there.
Yeah.
We have a shared trauma.
It's kind of true. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, as for me, I haven't really been doing a whole lot other than Yakuza Like a Dragon still. I am closer and closer to the end. I'm just trying to do as much as I can with the game as possible. I know there's going to be some post-game content, and some of it I might actually try to do because one is essentially another dungeon. But I just finished a boss fight that I was not expecting in the game. I didn't do any research on it after it was released in Japan, and I had to fight these two guys that I'm not going to spoil it, but holy crap. If you do want it spoiled, however, you can check my Twitter because I posted a photo of those two. And oh my God, that was intense. But I also know that there's an even more intense fight coming, and I'm afraid of that one. So I'm just not ready. I'm not ready for it to end. I just want to keep running around and maybe playing some more Dragon Kart because that's always fun. Who doesn't love a good Mario Kart knockoff?
This game spoofs so many different video games. It's wild.
Amazing. Yes, it is
Did
wild.
I say it was a bad thing? No, I did not say it was a bad thing.
Yeah. It's, oh god, it's such a wonderful game. It's a fantastic time to get into the franchise as well because it's a fresh storyline at this point. You do get something out of it if you play through the older series, but it is a good way to get yourself immersed into the series. So, if you've been hedging on it or you're not sure about it, you're getting the Rafe guarantee. Like you will have fun with it. So definitely check it out. All right, that being said, it is time to get into today's topic. And it's going to involve traveling around in your RPG gaming. So, that can always be a pretty daunting task, especially, when you've got an open world or a sandbox game out there. Depending on the type of genre, you might be given a way to travel around a little faster by the way of, maybe a mount, maybe you'll get a horse, maybe you'll get a vehicle like a car, maybe you'll get a jet, maybe you'll get a boat. Lots of different ways to travel around a little easier to get to your next destination. So that's what I want to talk about this week, just the different kind of mounts, the steeds, the vehicles, those things that you can pick up and acquire throughout many different games. Because as they're evolving, as games are evolving, I should say, everything is just kind of changing in the way that we travel. So mounts seem to be changing in their own ways all the same. So I wanted to kind of have a discussion about that as well. First off, what are some of the more interesting vehicles or mounts that you've encountered in an RPG? So I'm going to start. I'm going to start this off with Sky. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Okay. So, the best mounts I think I've ever seen are in Suikoden Tactics. I know, big surprise I talk about Suikoden. But this game is so underrated. And I recommend it even if you didn't care for Suikoden 4, which it is a sequel to. Anyway, they have really cool mounts, which is really unusual in a strategy role-playing game. So the first type is what they call a kangacorn, which is basically a giant rideable kangaroo. Very sturdy mount. It's good for protecting units that can die in battle, as there is permadeath in this game. My favorite mount, though, are the giant owls. You get a couple of them. And they have like armored versions of both the kangacorn and the giant owl as well. Here's why I love the giant owl. You can stick an archer on this giant rideable owl, fly them into an area where melee units can't reach them, and have them fire from there. It's extremely handy for minimizing the damage to your crew and protecting your archers. It's so useful, and honestly, it's kind of fun, and I really like the archer characters in Suikoden Tactics, so it just makes it perfect.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Like, you can get flying mounts and things like that in games like Fire Emblem and whatnot, but you get less option in those games. Like with Suikoden, you got to choose who you were putting on these mounts, and that was a really, really good mechanic for a strategy game because it really let you customize your own team way better. So
yeah, like this, yeah, they weren't tied to specific characters. You could put on whoever you ever you wanted, and like I don't know, I can't think of a single example that I've played of a strategy role-playing game that has this. Like, it's one of the things that makes this game really unique, and I love it. And plus, they're both really, really good mounts, and I really appreciate that. The and especially since you can get armored versions of them too, so they're a little bit tougher. It's very nice in a game with permadeath.
yeah, absolutely. All right, Mel. What's a really, really fun and interesting vehicle or mount from your gaming experiences?
I love mounts and things like that. I'm gonna just talk about Phoenix Rising because it's a game I'm still currently playing. I just think it's really fun. I love the mount designs in this game. Like they're all so vibrant and over the top, but in the best way. And I really like that they have a combination. A lot of games have this of, you can breed kind of the normal mounts, which are, out in the world, but there's also these special ones. And I didn't realize this game had it and came across this incredibly cool water unicorn really early on. I love mounting in this game. I think that it's really cool because you don't need to go and get your horse. You just summon them underneath you. So you just basically jump in the air and then you have your mount, which makes it super easy to use. And the other thing is that if you ride your horse, like let's say towards a cliff or a really high wall, when you leap off, you get almost a triple jump. So it's a really, really good mechanic to give you like a little bit of extra go. And I also just like that your horse can't die on you because so many games kill my horses.
That's helpful. Yeah. I don't appreciate it when the mounts can be killed. Like and just no.
Like if it's a story reason, okay, that's fine. But like if I just have to keep going and finding another horse to just, break in a field, it's just kind of like, ugh. But one thing I really like about this game is that it does give you extra function that you would not otherwise get in the game, which is really, really handy. Like it gives you a reason to use it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. All right. Next up is mine. I just recently encountered one of the most hilarious methods of transport I've ever come across, and its name is Vuskav. So this comes from Trials of Mana. I just played the remake for the Switch. I loved it. I thought it was a great game. But Vuskav was just something completely unexpected, and I absolutely loved it. So this thing is a giant turtle-like sea creature. It could have also been a kappa. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a big rotund kappa, and he wears a pair of diving goggles. And this is your method of sea travels. This is basically your ship, your boat. This is how you get across the ocean to other continents and islands and whatnot. And when you're riding on him, he is literally swimming the breaststroke. He's not even just like floating like a turtle. It's like he's in a race. Yeah, it's so friggin' hilarious. I was floored. It was colorful. It was cute. It was hilarious. Like, and it's just something I hadn't really encountered before.
Yeah, I'm kind of sorry I missed seeing that when you were playing the game, though you didn't play on the TV much, so I might have to play it at some point because this sounds
Well, yeah.
hilarious.
Well, the other thing you got to keep in mind too is that you'll get a different experience than I will because you'll probably pick either three different characters or at least a different combination of characters for your party. So, like, you won't have the exact same experience that I did, regardless. So it's worth it. I'd be interested to kind of see the where your story kind of goes. I'm sure it ends around the same point, but just the how you get there part, I think, will be slightly different overall. So I'd love to hear another perspective.
I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You
many
choose
games
your
to play.
yeah. You get to choose your main character, and then you choose the two party members that become your actual party members when you meet them in the story. Then, if you meet the other characters, they're just there, and then they disappear afterwards. So it's really, really interesting concept.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've talked about some silliness, like here's another question that's kind of been coming that I've been thinking about a little bit recently. So we're now in an era where fast travel is becoming more and more common in open world titles. So how relevant do you guys think is it to have be able to just travel around faster than than just being able to zip from place to place to place.
Well, I think it's valuable actually, especially since fast travel mechanics, like you still have to explore new areas on foot in these games, and you can also give mounts other abilities beyond just like an increase in speed. One example from a game I played recently was the mount in Atelier Ryza 2 who can dig up ingredients for you, some of which you can't get any other way. And I think that's a great addition beyond just increasing your travel speed. So, and sometimes I think options, regardless, are good, even if some players decide not to use them.
No, that's a very fair point. I don't encounter a lot of situations where, a mount can do something more for you. Like, I'm sure like, you could get like, something like something that you could attack in, like a tank or something like that. But, typically, I mean, for me, I've only really kind of encountered mounts that don't do a whole lot other than just give you that edge in movement. So,
Well, some mounts can be used in battle too, some can't.
mhm.
Like, another Suikoden example, I guess, but um, there are mounts in Suikoden 3 that aren't even available outside of combat.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So, I think we don't do enough with mounts. I think developers could be a lot more creative with mounts,
Mhm.
and I don't think we see that enough.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like that's sort of what I was getting at with mine, right? Is that there's this really handy kind of, and that's just a passive ability, right? But digging up things, allowing you to go into different areas, like I can't even think of them because we try to just use them as fast travel machines.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there are certain mounts too that, like flying mounts, for instance, can get you to places where you couldn't otherwise get at all due to terrain or whatever. So this is something that I don't think enough people really look at closely. But I'll get more into that a bit in our third question.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Mel, what other thoughts do you have?
Other thoughts? I'm supposed to have more than one?
I don't know.
um, that's fair. So generally speaking, if I'm really enjoying a game, I pretty much don't use fast travel mechanics. I want to explore the world. I want to see the scenery change. I want to see people and things moving within it. This is the same reason when I used to play WoW, I loved these long flights that just you set up your computer and it was like it'd be an hour and a half before you land somewhere and you could just see people fighting below you. And I just really, really love being part of that world. So you're really only going to get me using fast travel if I'm really frustrated. So like a lot of games will have these really annoying quests where you're just kind of going from point A to B to A to B to A to B like 3 times. And that's the whole quest. And I'm just like, well, I guess I'll fast travel this because I'm not really having that much fun. Whereas if I have to go to interesting places and have more of an interesting plot laid out for me, I'm probably going to just go there nice and slow the old fashioned way.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. I will sometimes just like walk certain areas. Like, not stuff that's super far, but if the travel in a game is not simply menu based, then sometimes I just want to see the scenery,
Mm-hmm.
and notice things I haven't noticed before. So, yeah, it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, just go on a nice long horsey ride.
Yeah, I think you guys are swaying me a little bit. Like normally I am that kind of a-hole that just discards every other method of travel if fast travel is an available option. Like, like even if I have to pay for it, like even playing Yakuza, I got to pay to take the taxi. Like I'll put that money down and then later on go and just make another million or two yen in my business management game. But like I don't know, it just how it's always been for me lately. Like even like I think when I was playing Horizon, like the first little bits, once I realized I could reprogram some of the buffalo or whatever to be a rideable mount for me. Like it was a cool gimmick. I enjoyed that. But normally if I was gonna brainwash an animal, it was gonna be one of them saber tooth things to like go and kill other saber tooth things for me. So yeah, so I end up treating it more as a novelty than anything else, and then just get to and from as I go with typically with the fast travel. So I don't know, maybe now I'll try something a little different in the next sandbox I play.
Well, you know what? You're playing a perfect game for it right now, to be honest. You're playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which has gorgeous scenery.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes, like, I'm not saying like do what Mel suggested. Who was talking about like going on an hour long, hike, whatever. But just like if it's just to the next area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Plus,
very strange. Like, I have this very. So I remember I was playing No Man's Sky, and this may be an interesting example. But in that one, you fly between the planets, right? And you can use different kinds of hyperdrive and things like that. And I would just set it up that I was flying towards the planet. It would take me, an hour or so. And then I would just like go do chores and stuff. And then I'd listen. And if my autopilot was like, ships incoming, I'd like run over to the console and like start doing stuff. And it just gave me this real sense of like, I am a person in this world doing laundry because you still do that stuff, and I just also have to be aware that raiders might come and kill me.
Yeah. You just have to add space to everything you're doing. So it's just like I'm doing space laundry and I'm doing space dishes.
Yeah, I spare my spaceship with my space cat.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
And you go kick back and relax in a space bath, like
oh
But
my
yeah, like in
goodness.
this game, it led to a really interesting experience where I kind of had to be a little bit on guard at all times, right? Like I had to be able to, in 10 seconds, jump up, grab the controller, and like, either, deal with paying them off or run into another system or whatever, right? But it gave this real sense of like this like low level paranoia that really helped me get into the game.
That's kind
who
of
who knew
interesting.
paranoia could be a good thing?
Right? I forget what they call it, where you're like constantly aware. It's a thing that new mothers get, where they're just like vigilance. I think it's just called vigilance. Where you're just like, even if you were asleep, if you hear it, you're like, boom, I'm up and I'm fully ready.
I think they refer to it as
There
hypervigilance.
you go, hyper vigilant. There you go.
I think, but yeah, I understand what you're getting at, like that constant sense of being on guard. My childhood dog actually was like that. My we my dad used to say that she always slept with one eye open because she could go from drowsy to completely awake in a second flat. Probably faster than that, actually.
Yeah, like we don't, as humans, we don't do it very well. But that like when you wake up, you're just aware. But like a lot of animals do.
Yeah, it's this instinct like that a lot of wild animals had, and we always thought that she had something a bit more wild in her, like a little bit of coyote DNA in her mix or something, because she always seemed, particularly as a young dog. I mean, as she got older, she couldn't maintain that, but she always had this sort of hyper vigilance going on, um, and that was really interesting.
No, awesome. All right, so we got one last question I want to ask you guys. What makes you like certain vehicles or mounts more than others?
I was trying not to get to my response to this because I knew I was going to address it here in the previous question, but what makes me like certain vehicles and mounts are tying them to interesting game mechanics or giving them some sort of personality. Like, too many games treat mounts as simply a means to an end. And don't really make them interesting in any way. Like, I'm really surprised that more games don't have side quest links to mounts or vehicles, you know? It could be related to repairing or upgrading a vehicle or feeding or equipping a mount. Like, some games do have these things, but they tend to be very limited if they have them at all. I really, really like ones where, like with Ryza 2, where there's some sort of other mechanic tied to the mounts, to make them more interesting or to give them more personality. They seem generally just to be like a very missed opportunity. And some games that could really benefit from having mounts don't have them at all. Like, we've all played an RPG where the base running speed is just too slow.
Yeah.
Like, we've all been there. Like, it would be very easy, particularly in RPGs which often don't have the whole party on the map at once, just to have some animations with the main character on top of a mount, even if it's just, one mount, and go from there, like, we tend to see mounts more in games like MMOs and all that. But again, they don't tend to be, even if they're visually interesting, they don't tend to be mechanically interesting, and it's kind of a bummer.
No, that's a fair assessment. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, yeah, let's give the mounts something more to do. And yeah, I mean anything to just make the gameplay overall more interesting or more, I guess, what's the way I'm put this? I guess just to be able to get more out of your adventure.
Yeah, like one of the I'll give you another example of something where they did something cool with a mount. And actually, this is another strategy game, come to think of it. I only just remembered this now, but they're not mounts in the same way as in Suikoden Tactics. But in Tears to Tierra 2, which is a very under-the-radar strategy game for PS3, they have an elephant, I believe it's an elephant, that, carts around like a carriage behind it. And it's your entry point on the maps. So you literally have an entry point onto the map that A, can attack, B, can move, and C, can also be killed. Now, isn't that a lot more mechanically interesting?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, like, this is the sort of thing I'm talking about here. Like, the sort of thing I want to see more of, because, like, I mean, humans or humanoids, basically, like, we frequently live with animals. Like, it's just a thing we do as a species, right? So why isn't this taken more advantage of? And even with vehicles, you can have that sort of, I don't know what you call that type of relationship, but like, people name their vehicles, or like, there's the tradition of giving a ship a woman's name, that sort of thing. We tend to associate some sort of personality with a vehicle, and we don't see enough of that either in RPGs. And I mean, it's a little weird to me. It seems like a piece of the human experience that's not really explored as well as it could be.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And I am way off my notes here and getting like surprisingly deep. So yeah. Um, somebody else talk now.
All right.
I can do it. I'll
Mel.
help.
All right.
Okay, so the thing I love, and I'm gonna say this is part of my like horse girl childhood, is I like mounts or vehicles that you can in some way customize, tame, build a relationship over time with. For me, it's more about just being like, this is, my ship or my horse. Like, it's about having a connection with those things. I talked a little bit in No Man's Sky. I really like in that where you can stumble across these old ships that have fallen apart and try to rebuild them. And it gives you this real sense of like, this is my ship. I put it together. I built it. I know where it's good and bad. And even when you pass that up for a different ship, a bigger ship, you still have a sense of who that was and why it mattered to you. And then we go back to like mounts, like I love how they handle things in Ghost of Tsushima. Like I like that, your horse has a name, your character references the horse and, not to give spoilers, but like it appreciates and understands that connection in a meaningful way. So for me, that's the thing that makes it special is it's not just a generic red horse, just a generic white horse. It's my horse for some realistic reason that the game has given me.
And you're feeding to in exactly to what I was talking about, that human connection, even if it is with something that is inanimate, like a ship, is so it's so important and realistic. It brings in an emotional connection, which is realistic to have. Like we attach ourselves to these things, right? It's very rare that people don't, and we look askance at people who don't. It's part of what makes us human. So yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like the only thing that really hasn't been said here yet is like I love the level of originality, and that's what I like to see more of. You go back to Vuskov, you've got this giant cartoony option of a rideable turtle, and like I said, I've ridden in a turtle across the sea before. You Pokemon, Devil Summoner, and there's other games, but like this one was just animated in a completely different way, something I'd never seen before. Like there was also Neverwinter, where when I was playing that, I had a mount that was literally me inside a gelatinous cube, and the cube was bouncing around, taking me places. I thought that was priceless. Like so I mean it really boils down to just that. And I can't believe I didn't think about this one before any others in this game, but something I also hadn't seen a lot of in its uniqueness, even though it's a really great genre for a sci-fi RPG, but Skells from Xenoblade X. Like, oh my God, I hadn't even thought of those until like this very moment.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, you could go a bit further, and any sort of like mech unit, like
Well, yeah, but the thing is that using the Skells, like you start out when you get your first Skell, it's you have it as a have a robot mode, but then it basically transforms into a giant motorcycle. So it's still only land capable. And then you have to earn, like after spending hours earning the license to be able to ride a Skell to begin with, you then also have to go through this whole side quest to get the ability to get a flight unit attached to your Skell. And once you got the flight unit, like the range you had for travel, for like how high you could go, how far you could go, like at the time there was no other game like it in terms of like in that level in terms of that level of travel. So like it took the concept of the giant robot, the mecha trope, and did it so perfectly. Like I'm amazed that there hasn't been another game to do something similar at this point.
I think a big part of it is the very few developers can create a world as ambitious as Monolith Soft does. The scope of those worlds is crazy, and then in something like Xenoblade X, to have the ability to basically explore every inch, not only of the ground but of the sky.
And they made
Like,
sure there was stuff in the sky too. Like it wasn't
oh, I'm sure
just
they
air
did.
travel. There were floating rocks. There was like islands up. Oh man, it was such a beautiful scenery. There were boss fights, there were monsters, there was treasure. Like it was oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that very few games have done, and I don't think probably any have done as well. Um, though I didn't get that far into Xenoblade X, and I have played the other games in the series, and I know what they're capable of in terms of environmental design, and like, I mean, that is enormously ahead of its time.
Yeah, it definitely was. All right, so that is going to be it for our discussion on vehicles and mounts. Was there something that we didn't talk about? I know we didn't talk about chocobos, and I also know we didn't talk about the Mako because we wanted this to be a happy episode. So that's
Stop
that,
talking
that's
down
kind of
about
why we
my
did that.
Stop talking down about my Mako. I will die for that vehicle. It is a member
Yeah,
of my party and it survived the suicide run.
fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So let us know some of the mounts and vehicles you like, or if you guys can come up with some more unique ones for me, please let me know. You can talk to us through our group email. That's xpbillionaires@gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on our social media. You can find me on Twitter at BillionairesXP, or check me out on Instagram at Rafe Thegrum. Sky, where can everyone find you?
I'm at SkyKnightXP on Twitter and SkyKnight.xp on Instagram.
And Mel, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Feminist Gamer or Twitter at Feminist Gamer 3, and you can check me up on the Level Up Dice Twitch channel where my D&D game and streams every Wednesday night, and it is no longer to be called Darkness and Dragons, so stay tuned and help us figure out what's next. It's gonna be sci-fi.
Ooh,
I
fancy.
know.
Ooh, dig it, dig it. Awesome. All right. And then don't forget to check out xpbillionaires.ca for all our written pieces, reviews, write ups, the whole nine. It's all there. And if you feel like helping us out financially, there are links to our donations through coffee on the website as well. So xpbillionaires.ca. All right. So that's it for us this week. And just remember a trusty steed is all you need to keep gaming. I'm sorry, I don't have anything better. Hopefully, better next week. All right, take care.
Have a good night.
Bye bye.